Musky fishing. I golfed today in a senior tournament.
Oh, hey, come on. I'm supposed to be starting right now.
Oh, sorry.
You're reading the script ahead of time. Yeah, boy, it's July 19th and it's episode 224, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the first website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to discuss how to create your own fantasy football auction tier sheets in preparation for your drafts. We're also going to get into some in-auction strategies, maybe around nominations and biddings and that type of stuff, just for you to ponder here in the middle of July. But of course, our analysts, they're always here. Well, they're actually not both here. Slim's on the mend, pretty tough. I didn't know how to write this, Blister. Pretty tough slow pitch injury. And then I put he's not here tonight at first and then made it sound like he was dead. He's not dead, but he is hospital bound. So he's not here. But we'll move on to Blister because he's here. Usually I would mention something about his golf game or golf trip preparation during this part of the show, like this time of year. But Blister doesn't want to talk about golf, I don't think. So, Blister, how's the musky fishing going?
Well, fishing has been not too bad, actually. And I've been going, have a big, beautiful boat in my front yard, but I walk down 50 steps to the river that's in front of my house and catch walleye and sturgeon and northern and you name it out of there. And it's actually kind of a neat to have that opportunity so close to home. But like the golf game, I golfed in a senior tournament today, and
nice.
With the exception of 2 holes, I would have had a decent round, but on 2 holes, I put up some large numbers. So, yeah, I suck.
Large numbers aren't good, right, in golf?
No, not good. And yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting out tomorrow, I guess, again for men's night. And, I don't know. It's just one of those games where it can go so good for 1 or 2 shots and so wrong for a couple more.
I won't be out for men's night because I'll be at the Fort Francis Canadian Bass Championships. It's
are you announcing there?
MCing time again. How's the water today? So I was out there for the rules competition. We've got the world, and now listen, people listening to this, I know will at least know one thing about the Fort Francis Canadian Bass Championships, and that is Jeff Gustafson.
That's right.
He's the Bassmaster Classic champion. I think the trophy said World Bass Fishing Champion on it. He fishes this tournament every year. He's won it at least a couple of times. He's always in the top 10. They had a big shout out for him today at the rules meeting. So Gussie will be on site. So it's kind of cool. You have a world champion there.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. He'll probably leave here Sunday and head to Lake St. Clair in Michigan because the Bassmasters pick up there this next weekend. And I got to improve on my 26th overall ranking in the Bassmaster Fantasy pool. So
do we have to start a fantasy bass podcast?
I'm ready. I could talk fantasy bass whatever you want.
I mean, I can host. It's not hard. So tell me about the bass fishing. Like it's not that hard.
I got a fancy little Ned rig there I was tossing. Chatterbait. All kinds of fun stuff.
It really works with my technique. I like the floaters with the tail end floater on. I don't know. I was listening to, I think it's Dave Mercer is the guy that does all the announcing for the Bassmasters. So I listened to a little bit to him.
Fellow Canadian too.
Who, Mercer?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was pretty fired up when Gussie won it, and I can't wait to call him on Saturday when they roll through the tent. Mercer calls him the Canadian snow leopard.
Yeah,
and he puts the little ears up on his on his head.
You got to remember that. Yeah,
it's
snow leopard.
Yeah, it's right there. He'll love that. I'll make it look like I did some research. But anyways, we're not talking about fantasy bass fishing, but that's what's going on this weekend here. So I won't be fishing or I won't be golfing tomorrow or Friday or Saturday. I'll be at the Fort Francis Canadian Bass Championships. So, but let's get into some fantasy football, blisters. So if you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. All right. So like I said, tonight we got a great show for you. Tonight we are going to discuss how to create tiers and more specifically how Blister created his tiers for our website. And then we'll get into some more auction specific strategies. Speaking of our website, you can head on over to thefantasyfootballauction.com, click on the membership area. We've got 2 different membership areas. One's called The Sheets in quotes, and that just provides you with 4 different spreadsheets. One of them is our consensus rankings, average auction values. We put a new column in there last percent budget, which helps you really quickly figure out what percentage a guy is of your overall $200 budget. And if you're working on some kind of funky budget, a $260 budget because you used to play fantasy baseball and that used to be the standard, or a $300 budget, you can quickly see what the percentage would be there, and you can calculate those things for yourself. So we've got over 300 players there ranked, consensus rankings, average auction values that come from actual money drafts, not mocks, not formulas like other sites. In fact, I had one of our members, Blister, who emailed me yesterday, shout out to Shay, he's probably listening, asking if there's any other sites where you can get average auction values that, that we work with. And like I told him, it's really hard to go to other sites. Let's say you go to Player Profiler or you go to Fantasy Pros. They're all kind of worked off of a formula based on ADP and what the guy's gone for last year, that type of thing. But Slim scours the internet, goes through actual live draft boards, and then comes up with average auction values from there. So that's why it takes sometimes a little bit of time for him to update the average auction values, but that's how we calculate those. So they're from actual money drafts. So you can get the sheets. That's $7.95. You can just buy all 4 sheets. It's our consensus ranking sheet. It's my cheat sheets that I use, and you'll actually be able to see as I prepare for each draft over the course of the summer. You get Blister's tier sheet, which we will talk about tonight, and Slim's tier sheet as well. And those guys are updating theirs throughout the summer. For $14.95, you can go to the next step, which is a premium preseason, which includes all 4 of the sheets, and it includes premium podcasts. And so we've got 1 premium pod up so far. Slim usually likes to crank out the premium pods, and I think if he's going to have a leg up on the competition, pun intended, Blister, he'll be doing lots of premium pods and getting that ready for us there. And also a new feature that we added to the premium preseason is a direct line email address that you can only get from being a member, where you can email Blister or Slim or myself and ask specific questions about your drafts, budgeting, your tiers, strategies, all those types of things. So it's $14.95. Head on over to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. All right, enough.
Let me cut in a couple things with that.
Cut in.
Well, I mean, realistically, those tiers and those pods are probably all you really need when you're preparing for your auction. Of course, our auction ranks, and you can see the values there, but also the emails to ask us questions specific. Yeah. I mean, you can, there's tons of news out there, obviously, and how you filter that news and process that news. Like at this time of the year, everybody looks great. Everyone's battling for a position on their roster. Obviously, guys who are playing, guys who are starting are going to be more valuable to you, but you can filter through that. It really comes down to auction is a lot of strategy. I was talking to a member of ours in my league in the Scott Fishbowl, which we're still drafting painfully.
I'm done.
Oh, you lucky bugger. Anyways, and and the person said, well, yeah, auction. She goes, oof, that's so much more work or so much more strategy. And I said, yeah, but that's what makes it great. There's so much more strategy. And we kind of keep reiterating. And for the people that have listened to us for quite a while, they know why we talk about mock auction data versus real actual data. Mock auction, just like any mock, most mocks you probably are involved in, unless you gather the 12 guys to do the mock. You log into one and a guy spends $50 or $65 on a player and maybe grabs one other player, maybe not, and then they bugger off and they just let the computer do their bidding. So all the players get they bid from the highest ranked player. Computer nominates the highest ranked player. It's just not realistic. So it doesn't really help you when you're going to your draft. So like you said, Slim compiles that real data so that you have an idea. And the other thing about it is every auction is different. So you could go into a data. Even when I was looking at our PPR sheets there and our money values, I think they're probably a little bit low. But I always think that in comparison to our big auction, our live auction that we have, where guys, they tend to get a little more expensive. And so I was going to talk about that later on with some of our strategy. But anyway, some of that information, that background information is kind of important because every year, there's different strategies that pop up. There's different ideas. Like there was at one point, we used to have kickers and defenses, and we'd say never nominate for more than $1, and or nominate for $1, and then if somebody gets some, then they spend more than $1, and that's a win for you. But then we always started to say, well, if you want somebody bad enough, nominate them for $2, and then you got them, because you might have $1 left over anyways at the end of your draft. And if they spend $3, well, then it's going to be more back on them. So, but that's all changed because we dropped those. So it's always changing. So, as we get through our nomination strategies and stuff tonight, we'll continue to add in some things, and you never know how it's going to go. But if you have enough strategies in your back pocket, you'll be able to rely on something.
Right. So we got that direct email address where you can then, really pick at our brains and figure out, different nomination strategies, how you're going to build your rosters, those types of things. So that's all over at the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. Blister, prepping for auctions, the first big thing, and we always talk about this all summer long, is tiering our players, not just ranking them, but tiering. Basically, tier-based drafting is so big you hear it more and more now in snake drafts, but in auctions, it's really super important. We get into different things like the auction U and when we're nominating certain tiers and those types of things, but you got to have the tiers first. So talk us through your process of how you create your tiers, where your decision points are, and how'd you come up with your sheet?
Well, that's a good question, because I barely remember making a sheet. But but I thought the other day, oh shit, I got to make my tier sheet, and I thought, wait, I felt like I did do that, and thank God it was there, and there it was in my Google. So, well, what I like to do, and it's a little bit different than what Slim does, but it's similar in a way. I try to tier my players kind of according to their auction value, roughly, and
so the actual dollar amount.
Yeah, how much you're going to spend, because if
Hey, Blister, can you just slide your mic up just closer to your mouth there, just a little bit on your new fancy set? There we go.
Is it bad or what?
No, it was better when you were close. There.
How's that?
That's
better?
Beautiful. Attaboy. Okay, keep going.
I can't hear much. So anyways, I like to try to tier my players according to how much I think they're going to cost, because that way, when I start to do my budget and say I'm budgeting X number of dollars for a quarterback, then I can see who is going to be in that range. And so say for example, I'm only going to budget $12 for my starting quarterback. I know that Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes are going to be way more expensive. So if it's early on and there's not too many quarterbacks out there, I'm going to probably nominate those guys and get them out there and get some money spent. And then I'll know that I'm probably going to be in my current tiers 2 and 3, probably stuck somewhere in there. And most likely, if it's a super flex and it's only $12, I'm going to probably be into tier 3 or tier 4 if that's all I wanted to spend. So I kind of look at that for all my positions. I'll go into an auction draft thinking, well, these are kind of the players I like to have. And if I have those players, how much are they going to cost? And then what am I going to have left to build around them? So if I look at running backs, for example, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Bijan, and Jonathan Taylor, I got all in the top tier. Now, the prices I'll probably tweak, but I say they're $52 to $65 plus, depending on your scoring, depending on your league. Yeah. And then the next tier, Saquon, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Nick Chubb, and I'm sure they're going to go for over 40, but probably stay under 50. And so if I'm willing to spend around $45 on a starting running back, all those people are in play, but it's probably not that likely that I'm going to get one of those people in my top tier. So then if I say I got Nick Chubb for $40 and I budgeted $45, then I got $5 more I can put somewhere else. So I can look and see, okay, well, now I have a chance to get a better RB2 than I kind of anticipated. Maybe I'm going to get, maybe I could get Aaron Jones or somebody instead of Kenny Walker or Rachaad White. Maybe I can bump up a bit there. So I kind of, all the time I'm in my drafts, I'll have an idea. Like, I haven't done any mocks yet. It's early, but I'll do that with all my positions. So maybe if I want to start, maybe I look at the receivers and I go, I'd love to have Jefferson, Chase, and some of those guys. But if I don't, I'm willing to slide all the way down to Amon-Ra and, Deontay Johnson and Calvin Ridley. And I think I can get those guys for probably 25 to 35 instead of spending like $50 on Jefferson or Chase. So if I know that's my build, then I have kind of a ballpark of what these guys are going to cost, because the reality is, right now there's tons of hype really for, Drake London and Calvin Ridley and Devontae Smith and all these guys, but if you look at all the receivers that are ahead of them, there's only so much money to spend in your auction draft. And before we came on air, we kind of talked about this, and I was trying to roughly estimate this from the tiers and from our values. But there's probably about 12 to 15 guys, and it might not even be in a super flex league, that are going to go for over $40. So if you're in a 12-team league, you're probably, everybody's going to get, potentially could get a couple guys. But if somebody goes after 2 or 3 of those guys, they're going to obviously be just dollar guys after that, right? So there's always going to be, because there's that much money in your league. So if you're a 12-team league, $200 a guy, there's $2,400. So those you have to kind of recognize where the money is, how much money's been spent, and who can draw money out. And if you're willing to spend money, like after, say there's 12 guys that are worth 45 plus, maybe 15. And if all those guys went crazily high, well, then you're going to end up having a lot more money that you should reallocate, because instead of spending $45 on a $32 running back just because you have the money, just move it around. And so that's what my tiers are all about. I look at those tiers. I have an idea of what I want to budget. I'll when I go into a draft, I'll allot X number of dollars for my quarterback position, then my running backs, and I'll break that even down to RB1, RB2, my 3 wide receivers, my tight end, and then my flex spots, and then all my bench. And typically, if we have, what do we typically run? 7-player, 8-player bench?
7 or 8, yeah.
And I'll budget. You got to budget at least $1 a player. So anywhere from, if it's 8-player bench, $8 to $15 I'll have kind of allotted for my bench, which really leaves you with scraps. Honestly, you need to grab some guys that you're going to get lucky with down the road that are going to become starters and stuff like that. So,
well, and I'm kind of that way too. I will say, like, if we have 8 guys on the bench, I'll say 10 or 12, just in my preliminary budget, so that in my mind I'm being aggressive for the higher end players. And typically, you save $45, or you got them for 42. Now there's a couple extra dollars for your bench. It tends to work out in the wash. But I'm like that too. I do low budget initially for my bench, so that I can stay real ultra aggressive in those bigger positions. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I think that's basically about it. That's kind of why I build my tiers, how I build them, and then I'll tweak them. If I notice guys are going more or less, I might move them around. It's not so much, basically their ability, but it's kind of their cost. Their costs and their skill level and their production are going to be kind of correlated. We don't have a formula for that, but they're going to be similar, right? Like you're not going to have Austin Eckler or Christian McCaffrey, in your number 3 tier. They're number 1 guys because they're going to produce and because they're going to be the most expensive. And as we get closer, like I take all the information I keep listening to, and if it's the radio or podcasts or watching NFL Network and gathering stuff, and if there's any kind of question marks, like right now I'm a little nervous about the running back situation. Like the running backs aren't happy, and I don't blame them. Like they don't get paid very damn good. And so how hard are they going to play? Like in our dynasty league, I got Saquon Barkley. How hard is he going to go? That worries me a bit. So I'll probably get a lot of low ball offers now. From
probably.
Bots, but so if things aren't more clear, and often these guys that hold out for a long time, then they come back, then all of a sudden they're hurt, or at least they say they're hurt.
Yes.
Hey, I'm hurt, coach. Pulled my hamstring, strained my groin. I can't practice. Can't play this week. They're not really probably hurt. They're just
exactly.
But that doesn't help us whether they are or they're not.
That's right.
If they're not on the field, they're not helping us. But I'll take and I'll highlight them in a certain color. I'm not really good with red and green. Like typically, red would be stop, green would be go. But if there's good news, I might highlight them in something so that I know in a different color means back off, or hey, don't forget this guy's got some issues. And maybe I'll even make a note of it on the back of my sheet. So if I have too many pops or something, I can look back. Oh, that's what that says.
So when you do your tiers, like I'm looking at your running back tiers right now, is that also your rankings? Like I haven't looked compared to our consensus. Is that your rankings?
Not necessarily. No, I'll just throw them into a tier. They don't necessarily have to be in like the first person in that tier doesn't mean they're the number 1 person for me, or do I necessarily have them any higher than anybody else? Because as I start moving them around, I just put them wherever the opening is. So it's usually at the bottom. So if I took a guy from tier,
so you don't have them ranked within the tiers
no,
necessarily.
It's just for
that's
me.
the group of guys. Okay.
Yeah, right now, like I have there's 2 different colors typically, and it's just for visual effects so you can kind of see them. But
yeah,
as I get closer to it, I might just change them to all white, like I said, and then the background that is. But then have guys I like in a different color, or put something beside it, or guys I don't want in another color. Because if there's guys that I know I do not want, then I'm going to nominate them early. Like, I'm not sure I want Derrick Henry anymore, but he's still probably going to be a pretty good back. They're going to run through him, but I just feel like he's due to break down. Dalvin Cook, who's not even playing, but people would still pay for him. I don't know if I really want Jahmyr Gibbs, because I think Montgomery's probably going to vulture a lot of touchdowns. So, guys like that, especially with the rookie guys, they're the shiny toy. Sometimes guys like to spend a lot more money on them.
Right. Okay, so and then as you're just moving them, you just put them into the empty spot. If you said Kamara over to tier 5 and you moved, I don't know, Rachaad White to tier 4, they're just interchangeable into the open spot. So there's no actual ranking in there. Okay.
No ranking in mine.
Okay. And when I do mine, I just copy, and I just did a premium podcast on it, but I basically copy and paste our consensus rankings, and then I color code them kind of based on my tiers, not necessarily on the dollar values that they're showing. So like receivers, for instance, Amon-Ra St. Brown is AAV of $35. Davante Adams is $36, but I have Davante Adams in a separate tier. So I just color code them based on my personal liking. Travis Kelce's in his own tier, then Andrews, Hawkinson, and Pitts in their next tier. Even though Kittle might go for more than Pitts, he's one below. So I use our consensus rankings, and then I tier them in there. And then when I'm getting ready for a draft, I'll go through and I'll bold guys that I kind of want to target.
Yeah.
And some guys, if I don't want to target them at all, I might just put them in italics, so they're still there, because I still want to be able to know if they're there to nominate or whatever might be, but also so that it indicates to me like, hey, that guy, that slanty guy on there, maybe he's not a guy that you want to be going after. So that's kind of how I create mine. I use them off our consensus rankings.
And you also mentioned earlier, like the auction U. So if we took a look at running backs again, for example, and say these guys are your top 8: McCaffrey, Eckler, Bijan, JT, Saquon, Pollard, Jacobs, Chubb. Say those are, throw Henry in there, so you got 9. Maybe even Ramondre. I don't know. It's close, right? So say those guys are kind of making up your top, potentially your top running backs. Like that, the reason I got some of them down a little bit lower is they can't all go for above $40 some. They probably won't. Some of them are going to be 35, 38. But anyway, so say there's 8 of them in your auction U. So what we know that when you nominate the first guy, so Christian McCaffrey, if he's the first guy up, or even if it was Jonathan Taylor, first guy up in that kind of tier, they're going to cost a lot more money. The second guy is going to cost a lot of money, and then as you get into the middle of that tier, like say there's 6 guys left, you might get a better deal in that part. And then when it's down to the last guy or 2 of that, what people perceive as the top 8 running backs or whatever, it could be the top 10 receivers or whatever, all of a sudden they're going to get really expensive again, probably even more expensive than they were at the beginning, because people are starting to panic and fret now because, oh my God, I'm not going to get a real true RB1. I'm going to have to settle for these other guys, and they're not worth this much money. So boom, they start spending more money. So there could be guys that could go for more than McCaffrey and Eckler, that, because of how they're nominated. So as you're watching that, like, depending on where your turn is to nominate, if there's been 2 running backs nominated, or say 3 out of your perceived top 8, and all of a sudden it's your turn to nominate, you might want to start nominating the guy you like, because if you might get him at a better deal, then he's going to still cost you money, but maybe guys are going to hold off because maybe you nominated Bijan first and Jonathan Taylor, and you kind of wanted Nick Chubb, so you throw Nick Chubb out there because it's your turn to nominate, knowing that Eckler and McCaffrey are still out there perhaps, and the people are going to save some of their money. They're not going to spend as much money, so you might end up getting Chubb for $35. Maybe he'll be a deal. And because people are holding on to big bucks because they really want McCaffrey and Eckler. So that's kind of, you mentioned the auction U. I don't know if we still got it on our site anywhere or anything.
Yeah, we do.
See that.
Updated that article earlier this year.
Okay, that's good to see that, because when you're drafting and using tiers, it really helps. Oh yeah, this is where it's going to get expensive again, because that these guys are running out of the people at that level. So,
well, and that's where when I do my cheat sheet, I have the AAV there based on our site, but then I also have a column for the actual price and then a column for the difference. And so if like, let's say Cooper Kupp, we have him listed for $45. If he goes for 47, I put 47 in there, then the difference, it will say +2. And then I can, and then Diggs goes for 3 under. So rather than 35 or 38, he goes for 35. So it's -3. So you can see within that tier if there's been deals or not deals. You know what I mean? And I can quit, because in an auction, let's just say CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown, it's round 7 and they're still on the board. Like you got to be you got to know what happened to the other receivers in that tier from an hour and 15 minutes ago to know where you're at. So that's kind of how I track things there. And then within that tier, I can see the U starting to shape. Do you know what I mean? Just from those plus and minuses on the difference column. So that helps me kind of find deals within the tiers especially later in the draft when, there's 100 guys already gone. And now what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look at these guys too with the costs and stuff like that when I have in my tiers, like, somebody like Steph Diggs, Cooper Kupp, both of them kind of give me cause for concern, right? Cooper Kupp's 30 now, I think. I think he'll be pretty good for a couple of years, but it all hinges on Stafford, though. And Stafford's not getting any younger, and he's, as you get older, it's harder to, he seemed to get injured. I don't say you get injured more easily, but it definitely takes
don't
a
ask Slim. It doesn't matter. You can be young.
Yeah, and so it takes time to heal. So do you want to spend? It's probably going to be your only $50 receiver, or it's going to, it's going to take up 25% of your budget, and you're willing to do that on a guy that, he might not be able to produce all season long. Steph Diggs bothers me. Like, I could look at all these things. That's kind of some of the stuff when I go through, like Steph Diggs. Well, he's kind of everybody turn on the radio and I listen to Sirius, like, they're talking about, he's kind of a prima donna, and he doesn't seem happy, and he, and he kind of does that, and he's had that reputation for a while. So if he's kind of pouting, and well, I mean, again, do you want them? I mean, could be great, could be phenomenal, and maybe for me that could be the death of me if I worry about little things like that. But at the same time, if I'm spending money, I want to invest wisely, and sometimes when there's red flags like that, those are the kind of things that would make me kind of put caution or color it in another shade that says, be careful. Between now and September, of course, a lot of things could change, and those colors could change as well, because there's injuries, so people get hurt, and all of a sudden somebody else is going to get more targets, so you got to kind of change the color to indicate you're more excited to have them too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and that's important stuff. These things are all going to tweak and move throughout the next few weeks. And then when camps start, then there's an injury here, there's a tweak there, there's coach talk, there's whatever the case may be. So that's all out there. So as we're looking more specifically into in auction stuff, like we've been talking about now with the Auction U, you talked a little bit about nominations. When you're thinking about nominations, just that's in like at a 3,000 foot level, what's your thoughts around nominations and overarching strategies when it comes to nominations?
Well, often I like to see money get spent, especially in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and I'll keep an eye on not just my budget, but everybody's budget and their positions. So if I see a guy still sitting there with a lot of money, but he's already got his, his tight end and the quarterback, he's waiting on somebody, So you want to get guys out there that early on that you have no interest in, that will cost some money. Like I said, though, when it's my turn to nominate, the next time around, pretty much the first nomination is going to be something like that. The next time around, I'm going to nominate somebody depending on, what I see happening in the tier. If there's somebody in there that I want, then I might have to nominate them. just because it might be the right point in the auction or that kind of an idea. So I try to switch it up. Sometimes I'll nominate guys I have no interest in, and then sometimes I'll nominate guys I have interest in. Same with the bidding. Sometimes I'll stay in bidding right from the start. Sometimes I'll jump in later. Sometimes I'll go up by $1. Sometimes I'll jump it up by $10. Just to you never really want them to know every time. Oh, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's going to bid, and then he's going to back out. Bid, back out. Bid. So you got to have, and you got to stay alert to be able to do that as well.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, for me, when it comes to the idea of nominations, I think that there's only a couple of things in the draft that I have any control over at all. Like I can't control other people's budgets or roster constructions or any of that thing. But, once a round, I get to nominate somebody. So the last couple of years has been something I've been trying to concentrate a little bit more on, is being strategic and planning ahead for that nomination strategy, or sometimes maybe there's a positional run going on and I've already got that position locked up, or my budget's on par for where it's going. I'll strategically throw in another receiver along with that wide receiver run. So then that way it is flushing some money. But then sometimes it's about, maybe in that first round, nominating Chris Olave, who is, down at like wide receiver 12. And the guys in your draft room are like, Chris Olave, well, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on him. I mean, look, there's still JJ and Diggs and Lamb, and hold off. And maybe you can sneak an Olave in for a couple of dollars savings at that point. So I think, like, in the old days when we first started this blister, it was always nominate someone you don't want.
Yeah.
Nominate somebody you don't want. You never want to nominate somebody that you're interested in. You let someone else do that and then you bid in on it. But I think that as we're evolving as auction drafters, it's one of those few things that you actually have control over in the auction. And so you can't just go down the top 200 list and go, okay, well, let's see. The top 6 are gone. I'm going to put out number 7. It doesn't, it just doesn't work that way anymore. And I think if you're doing it that way, you are doing yourself a disservice, because you don't have control over anything else, but you actually could do something about that nomination.
Right. So I think it's you have to be able to, I was going to say serve and volley, but you have to be able to switch it up and change the flow of things and get guys in there. That's why it's really crucial to have, I think, have your tiers, have that in front of you so that okay, I can see that there's been 9 receivers gone. There's only been 2 running backs. I've already got my running back, or like you said, or my receivers. Let's get some money spent on running back here, so that maybe later on, maybe I can afford a better quarterback or a tight end or something like that. So it's always, you're trying to you got to stay sharp.
Yeah. Well, and some of those decision points too. I heard this conversation the other day. You're later in a draft, you still need a receiver. There's 2 pretty good ones still on the board, but you see a guy still needs a running back. So, like, what do? It's your nomination. Do you nominate the running back, or do you nominate one of those receivers, knowing that guy's got about as much money as you do, and hope that you get one of them? And it was an interesting conversation, because it's like, well, maybe you just nominate the running back anyways, because he needs them. Yeah. He's going to spend money on them. And then you've got you got your pick at those 2 receivers later on, rather than looking at it and going, wow, I know he needs a running back, and I'd rather like pull a little more money out of him. So like, maybe I'll do that other receiver and I'll be lucky and I'll get one. But maybe you get lucky and you get both, because now that guy's tapped out on money, and or he's made the decision for you. You know what I mean? Like, he's taken the running back off the board. And so now you don't have to worry about that running back. You just have to worry about those 2 receivers, right? So it's helping you to decide, even though it sounds counterintuitive, nominate somebody that other guy wants, but it helps you down the road. You know what I mean? So there's decision points in there that you kind of have to make when it comes to nominating.
Absolutely. Always be watching what's going on and being prepared.
Yeah. And I think that you need to plan ahead for that too. Like you've done your nomination. And so you're updating your sheet, and then next guy comes off the board, you update your sheet. But now you're looking down the line and, okay, here's 2 or 3 guys I might nominate next when it comes to me. Oh, that guy's already gone. Let's add somebody else there. Oh, look at that. There's a tight end run happening. Do I put a tight end here? Like, I think you need to be active in your thought process on that while you're still being active on, who's up on the board right now and who you're bidding on. So right. I think that's good. Like, so just to go through another like situation point, Blister, I'm just thinking that early in the round, and I put this on the show sheet. I don't know if you saw it down there at the bottom, if you scroll down far enough, or if you've been updating your rankings while we've been talking, but
how do you know I'm doing that?
Because I can see them in front of me. Because it's a live sheet, which I may remind, if you buy our sheets, thank you so much. If you buy our sheets, in the email that it sends you for the link to the sheets, it tells you that there are videos, and in fact, I think gives you a link to a video on how to download said sheets for your own Excel files, or if you're going to use a another Google sheet like we are using, how to make a copy so that you can edit that. I've been getting inundated by people who have purchased our sheets for editing rights to our sheets. And first of all, I'm not going to give you editing rights to our sheets because only Blister can update them while we're podcasting. But if you go in and start editing them and you're a member, then like you've really messed up our sheets. Number 2, the reason why we have it as that one live link is that every time you click it, it's the latest update that we've provided. If I make you, I can put a link on there to force you to make a copy of the sheet. But then every time we update them, I'm updating the website. So it's a lot of extra work in that regards too. So you can just download them. I've got videos right on the membership area on how to do that. Videos like click here, go there, click there. If you're not computer savvy, which is absolutely fine. But please don't request to edit our spreadsheets because only Blister does that during the podcast and every other time. But you know what I mean? Like it's just a little side note for the members, because I think I've answered this week alone 8 different guys who have requested to edit the sheets. And I'm like, no, I can't let you edit them. I'm sorry. But that's why, rather than giving it in a lengthy email. Those guys are listening. People. There you go. Back off. Okay, but let's just say, Blister, here's the situation. All right. Okay, So you're with me. You're the 10th nomination. We're in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a 12-teamer. All right. You're deciding that you're going to do like that hero approach where you're going to do like one high-end RB, one high-end receiver. Okay. And so that's kind of what you're hoping for. It's the first round. On that note, kind of in the first round, sometimes kind of like to nominate somebody that's going to help me set my budget. So like if I'm going to go $45 for a running back, maybe I'm putting a running back out there that's going to be around that price. Maybe I get them, but at least then I know where my auction's going. But anyways, Let's say you're 10th in a 12-teamer. You got the hero approach. All right. And here's some guys that have come off the board. Pretty typical, but not all the top name guys, but a lot of the top guys that will probably go in that first round. So at receiver, you've got JJ, Jamar Chase, Diggs, and CeeDee Lamb. They're gone. All right. And then at running back, you've got Christian McCaffrey, Bijan, Tony Pollard, and Eckler. They're gone. All right. And then let's say somewhere in there too, Josh Allen goes and Kelsey goes. So now you're sitting at 10 and it's your turn to nominate. What do you do? Who are you nominating?
I might throw out another quarterback because I think Hurts and Mahomes are both going to cost a lot of money as well, especially if it's a super flex. Did you say that?
I didn't say.
No, but either way, I think they're going to cost money. So I think I might throw one of those guys out as well. Then, getting more money spent at that position. Basically at that. Yeah, that's probably what I do right there. I might go back to the receiver. I'm probably looking at that point, what guy do I think is going to cost the most money? So I'm going after him.
Okay. And you're putting him out there to flush money out of the pool.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the reason why I asked it like that is because, 4 big name running backs, 4 big name receivers, but you want a big name running back and a big name receiver. Like that's what your initial budget
right.
roster construction was. So is there an opportunity there where maybe you're trying to find someone to fill one of those positions, or are you just going to flush money in that first round?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm probably going to do that, and if it's going to be another 12 guys before I nominate again. So the danger with that, I guess, is if say you're 3 running backs in, it is a pretty good time to nominate a running back, or say you're 3 receivers in, it's probably a pretty good time to nominate a receiver, because you're probably getting near the bottom of that auction U. So you got to look at that as well, because if it's just a running back, if it's a quarterback and one of them's gone, there could be 2 other guys that have budgeted 40 for the quarterback. So yeah, they're getting money spent, but you're not drawing the focus away from their ability to buy that receiver. So there's probably 3 guys minimum in your league of 12 that are looking to spend 40 something on that number 1 quarterback. So those other guys weren't spending on it anyways. So they're saving their money for somebody, like receivers or running backs. So this might be an opportunity to get one of those positions at a cheaper value or slightly less value than what they would be if you waited till the next time you pick 12 picks later. Now there's probably 6, 7 receivers gone, 6, 7 running backs, 3 quarterbacks. So now you're getting near the end of that auction U for sure. And that guy is going to cost you a lot more money now. So yeah, and thinking about it, it's probably better to
get the guy. But
maybe
by the time you nominate again, you've picked up your hero though too, because you found the sweet spot in the U. I'm just trying, but I think that's actually a good point, Blisters. Like if you looked at it and maybe it's getting towards the back end of that tier, maybe putting out the next guy in that tier makes someone overpay $3 or $4, right? Which is not just about flushing money, but it's also forcing someone to overpay. Right. It's like flushing money is one thing, but if he's getting a deal for it, like let's say you got Tony Pollard for $29, but his AAV is 32. You got $29 off the board, but someone just got a deal.
Right.
So that's no good to you. So maybe it's then running over to receiver and saying, okay, I'm going to go AJ Brown because, there's already 5 or 6 receivers off the board and it's going to be at the back end of that tier. So AJ Brown, instead of going for 37, goes for 39 or 40. All right, good. So not only did I flush money, but I made someone overpay.
Right.
So I'm just like, it's a thought process, right? Like when you're in the draft, you got to be thinking about all those little things, because it's like one of those, like you've got, I don't know, 20 or 22 times that you get to nominate.
Right.
So
not a ton of opportunities, right? So just checking a guy off the list and going down. That's why I was just thinking like a decision point there of what you do, right? Right. Well, I'm just going through as I clean up these receivers here and realizing that I don't like any receivers once it gets past like the top 36. So maybe I'll have to start spending more of my money or budgeting for 2 or 3 stud receivers, because I don't like any of them. I'm thinking, are we missing names on this sheet? Because it's gross.
When you get down past Mike Evans, you mean? It's pretty slim pickings. George Pickens.
Yeah, like I'm not counting on Gabe Davis or Kadarius Toney, John Dodson, Jordan Addison. Like they're around the 40s for me. Yeah. Good Lord. That might just
early yet. That's so at least there's going to be a lot of movement in those rankings as we go.
Yeah.
But no, I get that for sure.
All right, that's done.
What about bidding type strategies, Blister? So when you're in draft, or I know you kind of mentioned it before, but do you try to be consistent in your bidding? Again, there's 2 things that you get to control. It's the nominations and when you say
bidding.
$1 more. Yeah. Those are the only 2 things.
Yeah. Well, I don't often. Sometimes that predictability, it can be a good thing. If you hammer out, a guy goes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you just keep going, and then it's like you're not going to give up. I'm just going to keep going until I get this guy. So then you get on the next guy. Same thing. 11, 12, 13, 15. 16. I'll go 20.
Right.
You know, just and that kind of like whatever you want. I got more money. I'm going to spend it, right? And then guys might just say, "Fuck it, I'm not going to go any higher." You know? And then once in a while, you just stop. You just say, "No, I don't want that guy." But you know, I don't. I try not to just bid guys up to make guys spend more money, because every once in a while when you do that, and it'll happen every draft, you'll get stuck with somebody you don't want. So even if it's $9 on a guy I don't want, it's $9 on a guy I don't want. There's probably 25 guys out there worth $9 that I do want. So I don't try to do that, but I'll mix it up a little bit. I'm more, I don't know. Some guys like to wait till the last going once, going twice, and then boom, they throw their hand in there. There's a few guys that we know very well.
Zooms.
It's like, oh no, I can't believe he did that. He caught me off
just
guard.
the quiet,
just like,
quiet little.
Yeah. So no, I think there is some strategy to that. Like I think especially the starting point too. Like we talked about earlier, we kind of alluded to back to kickers and stuff, but even with players you might want when budgets are starting to get lower, often guys will budget enough. They don't often get down to just $1 per bench guy. Like 8 guys on the bench, I got $8 left. That'll happen to one guy probably, but for the most part, they're going to have a couple extra dollars. So if you throw a guy for $1 and you want him, you probably should have started at 2.
Right. Or if you three's a lot compared to a $1 player.
It is. So if you got to go up to 3, then there's a lot of guys that can't do that. So you've eliminated probably another half of the field, right? So because at that point, late in the auction, you almost only have enough. You kind of got to nominate somebody you want, right? I'm going to throw somebody out there for $1, and if you get them, well, good, you got the guy you wanted, but there's a good chance you're not going to get them. If anybody has any more money, they're going to bid another $1. So, but if you just throw out some plug that you don't ever intend to play, well, then you're stuck with them at the same time. So
in that same boat, if someone nominates a guy for $1, instead of going 2, so he can go 3, go 3.
Yeah.
Right. Because then 4, holy shit, 4. Right.
Yeah. So that changes things a lot too. So, and that's why you kind of got to watch everyone's budget, because it's really hard to fill out your roster when you don't have very much money left with guys that you're okay with. Like, for the most part, like, I bet you, I don't know, we should have a stat on this, but I'd have to guesstimate that 50% of your roster's turned over. Like the most of your, like through and it might not be, maybe the majority of them stay the same, but through waivers and stuff, you're switching out guys all the time. So that's one thing to consider when you're going into your auction is I want to get really good starting lineup, a couple solid players on the bench, and the rest are going to be scrap because I'm probably going to drop them anyways when I pick up somebody off the waiver wire, the hot new item off the waiver wire. So it's not a bad thing. You really want to build around something. You can't just, you can't just go in there thinking I'm getting all $20 guys and I'm going to be great, because you're going to be good, but you're not going to be great.
Right. And no one's playing for 3rd place.
Right.
Or 4th place, right? You're not like, I'm going to make the playoffs in this league. You're trying to win.
Yeah.
So you got to swing for the fences. And like Slim said the other day, if you budget to go Kelsey and Kelsey blows his patellar tendon playing softball, then I mean, hey, like you swung for the fences, but you struck out on that one, right?
Well, I was thinking about that later too. I got one guy that goes in some of our drafts. Actually, I got to set that one up on Yahoo. It looks like I got to read.
I saw the review. The auto setup came out.
I don't know if I got to check it out. I haven't done anything with it. But anyways, he's a Chiefs fan, so he often does go get Kelsey and Mahomes. And he's actually been winning our pool.
It's a nice stack.
Right there. Yeah, that's a hell of a stack. Tough to beat those guys when they're throwing.
Well, I was going to go back to bidding, Blister. Like price enforcing, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of the price enforcing, but I do think that, and I don't know if you call it price enforcing, but like it's hard to let someone get a deal, especially in that first third of the draft.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I don't know if sometimes it's price enforcing or if it's more just making sure that you're keeping the market where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If a guy's supposed to go for $30 and he's on 20 and going once, going twice, 21. Like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
I can figure out.
You do that for sure.
Yeah.
And Slimbo does that.
And
too.
early enough in the draft that you can rejig things.
Yeah.
I think I actually did that in our big auction. That's how I ended up with Josh Allen. I think I was just like, whoa, hold on a second here. Are we really going for?
I was just thinking,
is he really going for that?
For our draft, how many guys? So there's a few guys that print off our sheets now, for our draft.
Yeah.
Two
or three.
Before we go, we should adjust all the values. Make them all super cheap.
Yeah.
So then when Patrick Mahomes goes like $6, nope, says right here $3.
Yeah, but listen, we say this all the time. We could you could finish the draft and then draft right after. Like if you'd spent your 4 hours doing a live auction and then you stopped, had a pee break, and started again, everyone would have different teams and all of the values would be different, right? Because every auction's different.
Fun to do a marathon. See how many times we could do it in a row and see how different actually in a row. Maybe
a lot of push-ups at Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's what we should be doing every Friday or something, or every Wednesday night for the rest of the summer. Auction draft, get everybody together. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, well, you know what? Now, I mean, I'm just spitballing this out there, and maybe somebody who's still listening 50 minutes into the podcast will be like, hey, that's a great idea. But I did try to do that before, right? With that best ball.
Yeah.
With the best ball idea, right? So kind of doing our own version of Underdog, but having an auction once a week and you throw $10 in and every week you go or whatever it is, but just so there's some dollar value there too. So it's not like a mock.
Yeah.
But just it sharpens your senses. It keeps you up to date.
That'd be good actually.
But that fell apart. I was really struggling to get guys in on that. But anyways, that's a whole nother issue. But I think as far as the bidding blister, just to wrap that part up, I like to kind of be variable on it, get in early on some guys and then bow out, come in late, do like you said, that quick little 12, 15, 17, and make a guy think that you're on there and try to be a little bit unpredictable so that the people in the room don't necessarily know what my build is, don't really know what my budget is. And one thing that I've been working on over the last couple of years in auctions is not being afraid to overspend by 10% on a guy. You know what I mean? I used to have this hard line. And the last couple of years, I'm trying to not have that hard line anymore. Just say, okay, I'll go $1 more.
And I'm trying to think, I think I've been a little too loose with that lately, like the last year's auctions, whereas I went over by $5 or $7 on a few guys, and what happened then was my bench and my flex was so weak that I wasn't good enough. I was a 500, struggling to be 500 team, so I think I got to be a little more firm on that, but because sometimes maybe I was getting too predictable. Maybe people knew I was going to keep bidding, so maybe I'll have to back out. But
that 10% area is kind of I find kind of a nice spot, like a $20 player, you're not afraid to spend 22 on, $40 player, maybe 44 on. You know what I mean? 10% gives you a little bit of play. You can make up a couple bucks somewhere down the line. As long as you're only doing that on one or two guys over the course of the draft, you can make that up somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So
we should have
I'm trying to play with.
We should have an episode of for maybe future pod where we look at guys and their costs and guys that you think it's a good idea or where you're hesitant, like we kind of mentioned, like a guy like Cooper Kupp and why.
Right.
Maybe that's an idea we could talk about too.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm guessing Slim's going to have lots of ideas because he's not going to be chasing the kids around. He's not going to be playing slow pitch. He's not going to be cutting the grass. He's not going to be right.
What a deal! But the rest of summer is going to suck for him. Oh.
So, I mean, we've alluded to it all podcast, but, he tore his patellar tendon, and that's like he had surgery today. It sounded like there was no maybe other major damage within the knee. So, I mean, wow, if you're a real athlete, that's career ending. It's like you don't come back from a patellar tendon. Jeez. Like that's I was trying to explain that to my wife, like all 4 of your quad muscles attached to that one tendon. So when it goes, like all 4 of those muscles are toast.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, awful. Anyway,
youngest guy of the crew too.
Yeah, that's right. Youngest guy of the podcast crew. And I mean, you're short of finger and my stitches are out. Other than that, I mean, we're unscathed. Your heart's still ticking.
I had one hole in the golf card today that I didn't have enough fingers to out my score.
Don't they stop at 8?
They should. They usually do. Not the tournament.
Just on a whole, speaking of the golf, I think we've got to 12 guys now for the golf trip, Blister.
Was Slim one of those 12?
I don't know. I was thinking about that today.
Yeah, because I was thinking
Onion just got added as the 12th yesterday.
Oh, good Lord! Wow. Minno's going to be licking his chops this year. Minno's going to be thinking
absolutely. You'll be making. I'll be golfing with Minnow a lot, so I'll be at the bottom of the barrel. I always golf with the best guy.
Yeah, my reason for not going was because of hockey.
Yeah.
So the hockey schedule came out. The last game is on Saturday at 1. I'm done by 2 Saturday.
So the Sunday tee off.
Yeah, I could have made that.
Well, maybe you still can. Maybe we need a guy for Slim.
Well, if you needed a guy, I probably would make it happen. But then I made an arrangement with the people we're traveling with. They drove the last time, took care of everything, and this time it's my turn. So, and his daughter doesn't play. She has 2 games on Sunday. So I could have been home. Like if I was coming home, I could have came all the way home, been home by 7:00 Saturday. Could have turned around, and drove with you guys and everything on the way down Sunday. Yeah. But now I won't get home till 7:00 Sunday, and it's about 2 hours from our hotel up to Brainerd. So I don't know if anyone's going to be willing to drop me off there or not. Just drive me up there, come back to the game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of the we were on. I took that road home when we came from the kicking camp because we were in.
Oh yeah.
What school were we at?
St. Cloud.
Well, no, we weren't quite to St. Cloud, but Elk River was the name of the school. Oh man, you see this facility. They were Class 5A state champs. Yeah. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But ironically, I'm sitting in the in the stands, and there's a mom there on the second day, and she's like, "Hey, did I hear you're from Fort Francis? We're the only Canadians there." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, we got a cabin in North Arm." I'm like, "Get out of here! A cabin in North Arm? Yeah. Where do you guys play football at?" I said, "Well, our high school's out by the McDonald's there." "That's your field?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, my son was kicking out there 2 days ago. Like we probably just missed him." Hayden and I were out there a couple of days before we left too. So they connected. They got their Snapchat whatever handles or whatever you call it, and when they're in town, they're going to go kick together. So
that's cool.
They're like, "That's the field you kick on?" Yeah, that one with the donkey trail around it and ankle high grass and.
Hate to think we'd ever put any money into that because there's always something more important for it, but not something that would benefit the entire community.
That's right. Oh well, Blister. All right. Well, that was a good episode. We talked about tiers. We talked about some in-auction strategy stuff. So that's good. Hopefully next week we'll get Slim back on, and we'll be a 3-pack again next week. So Blister, I won't see you out there at the golf course tomorrow because I'll be saying, "Here's boat number 42 all the way from Kenora, Ontario. Jeff Gustafson and
a great Canadian snow leopard."
Yeah. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I just don't know. Okay.
Is it
do I do it tomorrow when he comes in and just do it every day?
Yeah.
Or do I wait till Saturday when I actually get he's going to be in under the tent?
Do it tomorrow and say, "Is that okay that I called you that? Can I call you that again tomorrow?"
Yeah. It'll actually be good banter on the thing. 20 extra teams this year compared to last year. So they're at about 113 this year.
That's what I heard. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it'll be good. The tent will be rocking on Saturday night, Blister.
For sure.
Anyways, okay. Well, so I won't see you on the golf course, but maybe you'll see me at the weigh-ins if you decide to go look at bass rather than muskies and sturgeon and walleye and all those.
I'll try to get down there.
And for the rest of you, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.